right now.
Good evening, Lute, and welcome to News at 9. I'm Devere Dudley.
And I'm Natalie DeFord. Here's a look at our top stories.
The PLU Guitar Ensemble brings in professional musicians.
PLU in Focus shows us some alternative options for spring break next week.
And Sports Talk keeps us updated with all the new things in Lute sports.
All that and more next on News at 9.
National Women's Day was celebrated a couple weeks ago at PLU with chocolate.
Pacific Lutheran University's Women's Center celebrated National Women's Day with a chocolate fest. The party kicked off Friday, March 7th, with chocolate cake, biscotti, and a chocolate fountain.
I think it encourages conversation about what music is
and conversation and community. And it's always fun to gather around, especially chocolate.
Chocolate's always good.
The event also encouraged discussion of women's rights and equality within modern society.
It has some really interesting literary overtones of how sweet it is to have a balanced society with women and men being equal.
To learn more about the Women's Center, visit their website at plu.edu/Women's Center.
Last Saturday, the PLU music program brought in professional musicians in order to promote the guitar program on campus.
To gain a little bit more visibility for the guitar program at PLU. We have, like a lot of the music department actually, so there's quite a wide range of people who participate in it, the majority of whom I would say are not music majors, which is what we see in a lot of our ensembles.
I always did piano and stuff as a kid, and I'm just feeling like guitar is kind of the instrument that I want to learn myself. Piano was more the instrument, that my parents said, go play the piano and all that.
Lessons are definitely an important part of it. It's pattern recognition skills, what you see in the virtuosos. And it's interesting, there's sort of virtuosic chess players, virtuosic musicians, virtuosic computer, geeks. You don't see virtuosic visual artists, virtuosic, really, writers where you have an 8-year-old who's churning out a novel. So it's really that pattern recognition side, almost the math side of things. That's where you see in those really young kids, and that's a special thing and it's cool. But you certainly don't need to have that. Most professional musicians don't. If you look at sort of the broader kind of human experience, throughout time, there's this little blip that we happen to live in where there's recorded music and then there's everything before that. And so if you wanted music, you had to do it yourself. And I actually feel that making music is sort of part of being a human being.
I'm still kind of a beginner and stuff, and I hope that being at PLU I'll be able to learn more about guitar as it is.
Last week, protesters met at the Northwest Detention Center to show their support for detainees in the area. Allison Haywood has more.
Dozens of protesters rallied at the Northwest Detention Center in Tacoma March 11th to show their solidarity with detainees and express their opposition to deportation. Protesters included friends and family members of detainees, immigration reform advocates, and representatives from the Service Employees International Union. They shouted their solidarity with the detainees in English and Spanish, and many shared personal stories.
Again, our February 24 action to stop deportations worked. Nuestra acción del 24 de febrero para parar deportaciones funcionó. It worked.
Many detainees participated in a hunger strike that began March 7th to protest the conditions at the detention center. They demanded better food, better treatment, and higher wages for the guards. Supporters said the hunger strike began with 1,200 of the 1,300 detainees at the detention center refusing meals, the Tacoma News Tribune reported. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement said as of March 9th, 330 detainees were not eating. Someone is considered to be on a hunger strike if they have not eaten for at least 72 hours. ICE said all of the strikers were under close medical supervision. By March 11th, there were only 5 remaining participants in the hunger strike, and by now, that number has dropped down to 2. The strikers are drinking water and have eaten small amounts of food, but remain under medical supervision.
Rescue crews rushed to help when a Como News helicopter crashed into the street below Tuesday morning. A spectator took this video after the news chopper went down near the Seattle Space Needle, killing 2 people on board. A 37-year-old man who was inside a car the chopper crashed into was critically injured and rushed to the hospital. Firefighters say he suffered burns on more than half of his body. The FAA and NTSB are expected to help investigate the crash.
Paleontologists unveiled a new dinosaur Wednesday, and judging by its name, you got to see this thing. This is a picture of what scientists have nicknamed the chicken from hell. The new dinosaur's proper name is Anzu Wylie. The discovery was announced in the scientific journal PLOS One today, the Journal of the Public Library of Science. Scientists say you can think of it as a really weird-looking bird, but this bird weighed about 500 pounds, stood about 10 feet high, and had very large hands with sharp claws. Scientists say the Anzu ate small animals, vegetation, and possibly eggs. A team of paleontologists made the discovery after piecing together skeletal remains from 3 different sites in North and South Dakota. A replication of its skeleton is on display inside Pittsburgh's Carnegie Museum.
Oprah Winfrey is bringing her love of tea to the masses, it was announced yesterday. Soon you'll be able to walk into Starbucks and order an Oprah chai tea. Winfrey teamed up with the coffee giant to develop the Teavana blend. It features an infusion of cinnamon, ginger, and cardamom, and cloves. The tea will be available at Starbucks and Teavana stores across the U.S. and Canada, beginning April 29th. All proceeds from the tea sales will go to charities that help youth education. Starbucks bought Teavana tea stores last year.
Pandora, the online radio service, will soon raise the cost of its ad-free subscription in May. Pandora will soon raise the cost of its ad-free subscription music streaming service. The company is citing higher royalty costs for the price hike. A monthly subscription for Pandora One will now cost $4.99, up $1 from the previous rate. It's also doing away with its $36 a year annual subscription rate. The new monthly rates take effect in May.
You may want to stop pulling those all-nighters after you hear this new research. A new study says long-term sleep deprivation saps the brain of power even after days of recovery sleep. University of Pennsylvania researchers put lab mice on an unstable sleep schedule that mirrored the schedules of shift workers, employees who toiled on the night shift or spent long hours in the office. They found that when losing sleep becomes a habit, it leads to damage to a bundle of nerve cells associated with alertness and cognitive function. The study's authors admit more work needs to be done on humans. The study is published this week in the Journal of Neuroscience. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this commercial break.
Next is PLU in Focus with Leah Traxel. This week we'll be taking a look at the alternative spring break option offered through campus next week.
So here's the deal. I can show you a bunch of footage of third world countries with starving children and roofless shacks. But you've seen that all before. I can play on your emotions and explain to you why you have it so good and you owe it to the world to go out there and help others. But you already know that. The truth is, this is nothing new to you, but the world is still waiting for people like you. So what are you waiting for? Peace Corps. Life is calling. How far will you go?
This new phone is awesome. It has made my life so much easier. You know, I get kind of bored when I'm driving and I need to know what's going on. So now, with this huge screen, a keyboard, and a ton of apps, I can get a text and write back right away, no problem. It's like I barely even have to look at it.
Welcome back to News at 9. I'm Leah Traxel with PLU in Focus. Spring break is just one day away, and while some students dream of warm beaches and family time, others are planning trips with a more selfless goal. Alternative spring break trips are a staple of PLU, and this year 6 were offered by various departments and organizations on campus. We spoke with Tiffany Lemon from the Center for Community Engagement and Service to find out more about the purpose of these alternative trips and why PLU students are so interested in them.
We're hoping to offer students a different experience on their spring break. I know there's lots of opportunities to go to a warm, sunny place and to relax and rejuvenate and spend time with family and friends. But there's also an alternative experience that you can have during your spring break where you're really engaging with the community. You can also have fun and be with friends and meet new friends and new people to kind of connect with from the PLU community. And so we've been offering these alternative spring breaks for the past couple of years that I've been here, but I know there's a big resurgence that they're offering more opportunities for students throughout a variety of departments on campus. So this year, Outdoor Recreation is offering a trip, Ignite is also offering a trip, Diversity Center is offering a trip. We're offering our trips along with campus ministry and residential life. So there's lots of opportunities. One of the professors, Mark Mulder, is also taking a group of students to build a well. So I think having those diverse array of experiences for our students to get involved in is important. And it's a part of kind of the mission of the university to get students interested in service and engaged in service. So that's kind of what, but I think it's becoming more of the ethos of what we want to happen here at PLU, because it seems like students are interested in it and they want to engage in those opportunities. So the more that we offer and the more that we can kind of give that experience to students, I think they're going to step up and say, yeah, this is definitely something that I want to do. I think we're just looking forward to operating more expansive opportunities next year. We're kind of looking forward to continuing Parkland Staycation, possibly doing another hold-in trip next year. And then I know that different departments on campus will continue to offer their alternative spring breaks. And so we're just looking forward to collaborating with them and offer some great opportunities for students.
One alternative trip is the Parkland Staycation. In its second year, the trip is designed to connect PLU students with the greater Parkland area through community service. We talked to Tommy Flanagan and Ella Anderson, both participants in last year's staycation, about the event's impact on the community and the students involved.
There's always a range of different alternative spring breaks offered by PLU or different groups at PLU, and I've been involved with the Parkland Staycation this is my second year involved in it, and the idea kind of started last year. I kind of developed the idea through working with campus ministry and being interested in the work that Center for Community Engagement and Service does, and kind of bringing them together to offer a way for students who either can't go home for spring break or choose not to go home for spring break, or anyone else interested, to stay on campus and engage in the community meaningfully, because there's so much emphasis at PLU, which is good, on going abroad and doing things meaningful that are in other countries or other places, but there's really there are few opportunities for students to really engage locally in this community. So that's kind of where the idea came from. Got a few extra financial resources this year, so this year it's going to be even better, and we have 12 people signed up for the whole time, and we're working with this same kind of community partners: schools, churches, food pantries, community meals, and we're really looking forward to it. I really like it because so far it's been really collaborative. It has really taken the work of CCES and parts of campus ministry, and this year a little bit of Res Life to pull it off. So I think it's really cool that all these different organizations and groups on campus can pool their resources a little bit to offer this type of opportunity for students. It excites me to be able to do it this year, and then hope I hear about it in coming years, that it's still happening and that it's transformed or whatever shape it's in. So that's kind of my hope for it.
I went on the alternative spring break last year, staycation. It was my first time. I was actually going to go to California, but then I decided to do this because I knew a lot of people who were going to do this trip. well, not trip actually. I was staying at PLU and then working in the community, but I figured that I'd go kind of explore what was around PLU. It was great. There weren't that many people on campus, so we really kind of just stuck together all the time. We went shopping, we watched movies, aside from doing our community services at churches, food banks, gardening. It was really fun.
Other trips include a trip to build a well in Nicaragua organized by the School of Business, a trip to southern Utah sponsored by Outdoor Recreation, and a Diversity Center sponsored trip to Georgia. Stay tuned for more events from CCES throughout the year. Next up is Sports Talk with Devere Dudley. We'll be back after this commercial break.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
Welcome back to News 9. I'm Devere Dudley, and you're watching Sports Talk. We start tonight with the baseball team who is making a name for themselves in the Northwest Conference. This past weekend, the Lutes traveled to Whitworth and continued their dominant reign, winning 2 out of their 3 games. During the first game, pitcher Trevor Lubkin threw 9 innings while only giving up 1 run. His dominant pitching statistics didn't stop there, however. Lubkin also threw 13 strikeouts. It was his 4th win of the season. Offensively, senior Alec Beal led the Lutes with a double, a home run, and 2 runs batted in. The second game took a turn for the worse for the Lutes. PLU couldn't manage to get a run on the board and lost 4-0. On a positive note, it was only the Lutes' 5th loss of the season. They now have 12 wins, which puts them in 2nd place in the Northwest Conference. The Lutes were able to squeak out a 1-0 victory over the pesky Pirates in the 3rd game. The game came down to the wire as PLU didn't score until the 9th inning. Junior Colin Nilsson, who leads the team in home runs, scored the game-winning run. The Lutes square off tomorrow against the Loggers, their crosstown rivals. This game will be played at home, and their first game is set to begin at noon. Speaking of baseball, Junior Colin Nilsson has been making headlines recently, and for the right reasons. The outfielder has been belting home runs right and left this spring. Nilsson leads the team in home runs with 2, but what's more impressive is that he knocks the ball out of the park during practice. Here's Giancarlo Santoro with more on the Bruiser.
The Pacific Lutheran University baseball team has been good in past years, but this year is a little different, mainly because of junior Colin Nilsson. Because Nilsson is already leading the team in home runs this season, one of his biggest strengths is forcing opposing pitchers to really concentrate on how they will pitch to him.
Weight room's a big part of my game. I'm in there 4 or 5 days a week. I've always had an explosive body type, but since I've gotten to the college level, weight room's been a big part of my hitting and stuff, at least power-wise, and just work ethic is everything else, getting the technique down and making sure my head's still I'm seeing the ball well.
Although the team's roster designates Nilsson as the team's starting right fielder, he hasn't always been knocking home runs left and right.
My freshman year, I did not hit at all. I was primarily a pitcher. And I did really well at pitching, and one interesting thing is I was going to go, we have end of the year meetings with our coach and stuff, and I was going to go into the meeting and tell my coach, you know what, I think I need to focus on pitching. I don't want to work on hitting. I think I might be a pitcher only. And he beat me to it. The first thing he said was, you know, Colin, I don't care about your pitching. I want you to work on your hitting over the summer. And that's when my hitting kind of took off in my college career. And that's primarily what I do now, is hit home runs.
Nilsson will try and help the Lutes finish first in Northwest Conference this season with his powerful batting.
He has some power that you just don't see in other people, the type of power that people will stop taking batting practice to watch him hit. So we thought that at some point maybe that could transfer over to games, and he's starting to see some of that now.
The baseball team might be doing well, but the softball team has shown signs of similar success. After winning 4 straight games, this softball team is looking like the team that won the national title in 2011. While the team is 0-5 at home, they have shown signs of promise. Lewis and Clark fell victim to the Lute success as they couldn't win a game against PLU this past weekend. During the first game of the weekend, the Lute scored early. Senior Spencer Sherwin drove in the game's first run to put the Lutes up 1-0 in their first inning. After that, the Lutes continued their early success, scoring 3 more runs. Pitcher Leah Butters earned her first victory on the mound, giving up 2 runs in 7 innings. The Lutes powered past Lewis and Clark in the second game, winning 11-1. The Lutes were so dominant that the game had to be called in the 6th inning. 7 Lutes managed to record at least 1 run batted in, and every batter except one got at least 1 hit. The Lutes went on to win their next 2 games by a combined score of 13-4. The softball team will head down to Texas this coming weekend to face the University of Texas Tyler. Afterwards, PLU will take on East Texas Baptist, Trinity, and Texas Lutheran. In the world of track and field, the PLU team wrapped up a 3-day weekend with 5 event titles and 13 top 3 finishes Saturday at the Saints Open. Senior Kyle Part led the throwers with 2 top 5 marks, claiming first in the hammer throw and 4th in shot put. First-year Richard Johnson led the runners by taking first in the men's 100-meter dash with a time of 11.07, while senior Ivy Reeves tied for second with a time of 11.09. Senior Taryn D picked up the Lute's hurdles victory with a first-place finish in the women's 400 hurdles. Her time of 1:06.8 edged out the second-place finisher by 1/100th of a second. The track team returns to action next weekend when they travel to Eugene, Oregon for the Oregon Preview on March 22nd. The men's tennis team has been struggling as of late, losing their last 2 matches. Against Whitman, sophomore Jeremy Marsh was the only Lute to earn a victory. Marsh beat Whitman's Jacob Christensen in straight sets 6-4, 6-2. The Lutes weren't able to overpower Whitworth, but PLU did have several players win in their respective brackets. First-year Sam Stratter defeated Whitworth's Chris Engelman 6-3, 6-2 to earn the Lutes' only singles victory. The Lutes doubles teams fared better, winning 2 of 3 matches. The team will travel down to California this upcoming weekend to take on Caltech, Chapman, Hope International, and Biola. The women's team hasn't been doing much better. While their record stands at 6-2, they've lost their past 2 matches. Whitman and Whitworth proved to be superior opponents for the women as well. Against Whitman, the only Lute's tennis player to earn a victory was junior Mariah Seaman, who won her singles match 6-1, 6-4. Whitworth bested the Lutes in nearly every match, but the Lutes were able to seek revenge in the doubles matches. 2 of the matches were won by PLU. Sophomore Samantha Lund and senior Leah Newell won their doubles match 8-5, while the junior duo of Allison McClure and Mariah Seaman won their match 8-5 as well. And we would like to end our broadcast honoring PLU Basketball Hall of Famer Tom Whalen, who passed away this weekend at the age of 71. Whalen's career scoring average of 21.6 points per game is still a PLU record, as are his 259 made field goals and 559 field goal attempts during the 1963-64 season. PLU won the Evergreen Conference title and advanced to the national tournament during both of his seasons with the Lutes after he transferred from community college. A memorial service for Whalen will be held on Sunday, March 23rd at 3 at Sound Life Church in Tacoma. Gifts can be sent to PLU's Office of Advancement in memory of Tom. All proceeds will go to Lute Club and men's basketball. I believe that's all the time we have tonight. Have a great spring break. News at 9 will return on April 3rd, but feel free to check us out anytime at massmedia.plu.edu. For all the News at 9 crew, I'm Devere Dudley. Good night.